words, saying words, and talking words.
That's pretty good. Those are good readings that I'm getting on the reading machine.
Super reading. Look, they go all the way to the top and the bottom.
That's what she said. All right, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Come here! Let's go, give me a flipper!
All right, welcome to Amateur Hour. This is our preview for the Spring League MMXX, aka 2020, aka the year we wish we all forgot. Spring League playoff competition performance thing.
Fun time.
Yeah.
The SCTX FFL fun time.
And we are here coming to you recorded from Brick Oven Pizza in Lumberton, Texas. And we're going to talk about the first round of the playoffs for the thing that's going to happen here.
Which some of you just watched and saw that we did the drawing live.
Yes,
and
we did it live on Facebook.
It is now set up and ready to go.
So, Troy, I think you should go with the first game and tell us how you think that's going to go.
All right, so the first game is Team Heat versus Prime Time. And these are two teams that, we've been off a long time, and now we're back, and we've had a few games. And I didn't see last week; I was out, so I didn't see. But Team Heat did beat the Showstoppers the last time I saw them, so that was pretty impressive. Prime Time is kind of up and down. They got pretty good quarterback play whenever we played them, so I just don't know how that game's going to go. I really don't. It's kind of a toss-up, I would think, but I don't know. I'm going to say Prime Time would win that game. I don't know. I mean,
so you're going to say Prime Time for the first win. Troy says Prime Time?
Just a guess. Just guessing.
Okay. Well, I've been out there a lot this year and seen a lot of the teams. I do all the videos. So I think Team Heat is completely up and down. It all depends on which players show up. I think Prime Time is a lot more consistent. But you know what? To make it interesting, I'll go with Team Heat for this first game since they're coming off a big win against the Showstoppers. See if they can get that momentum continuing, and I'll go Team Heat. So
do we remember how they did last week? Let me
Nope.
pull up. I'm gonna pull up that.
I don't even know who they played last week.
I'm gonna pull up that schedule here on the Google box.
While Troy is full.
Walt put in this screen that takes forever to load on the website.
Walt.
Okay, finally. Okay, Prime Time beat Team Heat 42-18 last week.
That's going to be different the next time.
Okay.
I'm convinced it's going to be way different.
All right. Next game.
All right, the next game. The Black Mambas versus the 409 Boys. Now, the Black Mambas come in with JC at quarterback and a lot of the players that used to play on the 409 Boys. Actually, that's an awesome game. I think it'll be very interesting.
It's a good
However,
first-round game, yes.
I think the 409 Boys through this entire thing have stuck together more. I think the Black Mambas have been very disorganized. The Storm was playing games because the Black Mambas wouldn't show up. But the 409 Boys have been out there more, and I will go with 409 Boys winning that game.
Okay. And then this is one of those toss-up games, too.
Yeah, it's really close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an easy choice.
They're almost mirror images of each other. And just for this sake, I think I'll go with Black Mambas winning this one.
Okay, the Black Mambas.
I think they've got enough firepower to win that game.
So
Either team winning would not surprise me, but I'm going Black Mambas.
Yeah, it's two good games to start off with. Go ahead for the third game.
The next game is the Squad versus the Expendables, and it's just that Expendables are going to win that game. That's just a better team playing a not as good team.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that one. I think I just don't think the Squad have the personnel to compete. David Dixon's obviously a wonderful athlete. Troy, I think his last name's Freeman's great, but they don't really have anything else.
Yeah.
And I think the Expendables have a lot deeper roster.
And over these last 3 weeks of playing, the Expendables have been most consistent team of everybody so far. Have won all 3 games they played. Have put up at least 30 points. At least 32 points every game, and have only given up 16 at the most, 12, and 16. So they scored 36, 32, and 32. So I think that's just a better. And they beat the squad last week, 36-12. So
I hate that we have 2 rematches in this, but we drew the names.
You saw it.
Okay, so the 4th game of the day is going to be the Showstoppers and Jack Boys. I think that's obviously the biggest game. So, Troy, what do you think?
Man, that's a tough one. The Showstoppers have not played well since we got back. I just don't think they're running on all cylinders yet. So I just don't know how they can handle the Jack Boys and their athleticism. So I'm going to go with the Jack Boys in that one.
I totally agree. I think the Showstoppers are in what I would consider a weakened state. I don't even know if Jacob Diltz will show up. I don't know who's going to play quarterback. If it's anybody besides Diltz, honestly, unless the Jack Boys have a meltdown, I don't think they'll lose that game. Especially, it's the first game of the day. Nobody's hurt. Everybody's fresh. So I'll go with the Jack Boys as well. All right, so now I think that we can go with the second round of stuff and see where we fare on this. So, Troy, what you have in the second round is Prime Time playing Black Mambas. Who do you have in that game?
I think the Black Mambas are going to win. Black Mambas are going to win that
Black Mambas, okay.
Yeah, the Black Mambas, yeah. I think they will win that game.
So you think Black Mambas over the 4-9 boy? Or
over Prime Time.
Over Prime Time.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'm thinking the 4-9 is going to play Team Heat. Team Heat might squeak one by Prime Time. I don't think there's any way they're going to beat the 4-9 boys. So I'll go 4-9 boys winning that game.
All right.
All right, so the next game would be for both of us, Expendables versus Jack Boys. Since you are a player on the Expendables, I'll let you go first. Tell me what you think.
I think this is two good teams. One really good team, one up-and-coming team that's getting better every week. And we played the first week of the season of the original Spring League back in February, March, whenever we played. And I think that was a one-score game, maybe like a 1-point game that the Jack Boys won by. And we've played consistently last 3 weeks. Jack Boys finally came back this week. So, I don't know. I think that's going to be a toss-up. I just, I hate to – it's always hard for me to pick against the Jack Boys because they're so good.
Yeah.
And I hate picking against myself because I always want to win.
Because you're so good.
Yeah, because I'm so good.
Yes.
Man, that's a tough one, but I always give the edge to the Jack Boys in games that are toss-ups.
Well,
Jack Boys.
I tend to agree, although I'll say that the Expendables, I think, have been the only team that has beaten the Jack Boys and been like it's almost like they're always competitive. It's such a strange thing, and it will completely depend on who the Expendables have showing up as a quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
If Andrew Allen and Trey Green?
Trey Green, yeah.
And Trey Green both don't show up, to me, you guys don't have a chance at all.
Yeah, exactly. I think, that's true.
But if one of those people shows up and they play well, it's a toss-up to a degree. But, man, it's hard for me to bet against the Jack Boys because I think they're just way talented and together. So I'll go with Jack Boys, too. All right, so here's the championship game. You have the Black Mambas playing the Jack Boys. What are your thoughts, Troy?
I just think the Jack Boys are a more complete team because the Black Mambas are basically a split up of 409 Boys and Storm. It's a full team, but it's not a team that's been together very long. So I'm going to give the Jack Boys the advantage there and say the Jack Boys win.
Well, I hate to just agree with you because it makes it for boring radio or whatever we're on.
But yours is against the 409 Boys.
It's against 409 Boys, but it's the same principle. I mean, these two teams, the 409 Boys and the Black Mambas, basically split. And it's just different people that should be all on the same team, really.
Yeah.
And if it were a full-strength 409 Boys team versus Jack Boys, it would be a harder decision. But it's not. It's 409 Boys minus JC. Minus a bunch of other players that are great. And minus Carnell, who's amazing. I got to go with the Jack boys. I don't see a way for the 4-9 boys the way they currently are to win that game. So I'm going Jack boys. In fact, I think the Jack boys' first 2 games they played, I'll even go this far, against the Showstoppers and against the Expendables, are going to be tougher than the championship they play against the 4-9 boys if that happens. So I'll go Jack boys in the championship too.
It's going to be a long day no matter what. That's a bunch
It's
of games.
gonna be hot.
10 games? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 games? Yeah, that's a lot.
For sure, we'll be wrong about something. And there'll be some kind of surprise along the way, so we look forward to seeing it.
I like it.
We're planning on having it on July 12th. Now, please remember that this is all contingent on what Texas rules are at that point as far as gatherings for more than 10 people. We're not going to violate any sort of government regulations. We're not going to jeopardize our league that way. So we're going to have it. You'll have your championship. We'll have the playoffs, and you guys will know in plenty of time.
Yes, it's fun to be back out there playing, but we want to keep everybody safe. We don't want to break any rules or anything set forth by the state. So, you know.
Sure.
But,
Well, all right. Well, if you guys would like, and I would really appreciate it, stay tuned for another segment. I have some things I'd like to say that I think that would help you navigate these turbulent waters that we're currently all at least treading in. As long as you'll have me, I'd appreciate it.
all right. Welcome back to episode of Amateur Hour.
Hey, that was pretty good.
Welcome back, I like to say.
There we go. See, that's a better welcome back.
Now I can go. I did my welcome back.
Yes. Well, you can leave if you want to.
You'll
I'd
pay
like
for
to-
my dinner.
I'd like to hear your footsteps as you walk out.
Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, we're coming to you recorded from Brick Oven Pizza in Lumberton, Texas.
Just like we were the last 2 segments.
Well, this is I guess this is the third kind of segment.
This is our third.
To me, the first segment was more of an prologue.
Are we in the past participle?
I don't know. Anyway, so I thought that it would be a good idea for me to lay some really good, what do they call it, like vibes? I want to throw some good vibes on you guys.
Positive vibes?
Yeah, some positive vibes.
Lay them on us.
Sure. So over the last, and by the way, if you're still hanging in there with us, this might be the best part of radio or podcast you listen to all week. I promise. I researched this thoroughly. I even have a degree in psychology, which I understand is completely meaningless to most people, but I do understand the subject pretty well. So I have some good stuff to tell you, and I think that if you just take it for what it is, don't look at it as a political thing, because I'm not a political person. I'm not trying to make a political stand. I just think if you listen to me, it will make your week a little better, and it'll make you a little more thoughtful. So,
Well, as I don't believe in psychology, I'm just going to watch the TV up here.
okay. Well, Tom Cruise, you can do anything you want to, but I am going to talk about the things I would like to talk about. So, I have 2 dogs, as you know, Troy. Can you name my dog's names?
Penny and Nellie.
That's pretty good. All right.
I've known you a long time.
So, now this is going to take a second, not a minute, but a second. But bear with me here. Penny is a mix between a Rottweiler and a Chihuahua somehow, and Nellie is a black lab. So one dog is skittish and aggressive at the same time, and the other one doesn't care about anything that happens. When Penny was a puppy, she had a traumatic little childhood, or puppyhood if you're a puppy type person, and she went to the pound, and that's where my girlfriend adopted her from. But when she was living on the streets of Beaumont, she would eat crispy worms off the side of the road, and I'm sure things were probably very scary. Nellie, the black lab, on the other hand, who is very fat, wandered up to a woman's house that we know, and she called, and one had said she had a dog, so I adopted Nellie. But Nellie obviously had owners because she knew exactly what moist and meaty burger dog food was, and she knew what the word treat was, and if you told her to sit, she already sat, and she was spayed. So someone obviously cared for Nellie. So Penny and Nellie have very different upbringings and very different personalities. So the way they see the world is totally different. For Penny, everything scares her. Fireworks scare her. She pisses her pants and then hides under the bed, or she bites the shit out of anybody who stares at her, or she just sits there and trembles. So that is Penny's worldview. She's scared of everything because the world has mostly been cruel to Penny. Nellie, on the other hand...
I know Penny, and that's pretty accurate.
Yes, Penny bit a 2-year-old at a party we had one time because the 2-year-old tried to pet her while she was eating her food. Because she used to starve almost to death, and... Thank you. She is very protective of food. She always had a want for food, so it freaks her out when people are around her. Nellie, when fireworks happen or anything happens, doesn't really care. She just mostly wants more food. She literally eats figs off the fig tree in the yard because she's such a freaking glutton. So these dogs see the world in a very different way. Now I say all that to talk about this. Dogs' brains, just like any other creature's brain, detects a lot of patterns. So when Penny hears a loud noise, she equates it to somebody screaming at her to get out of the road, or somebody coming at her with a bat or some kind of stick or something, because it's probably some kid in Beaumont shooing her away, or some bigger animal trying to bite her to eat the food. When Nellie hears a loud noise, or hears especially the sound E, she equates it to treat, and she thinks that she's about to get fed. So, she just kind of runs to you and doesn't care. So our brains detect patterns. And the problem, with dogs is no big deal, because, their patterns are all fine. But with people... Oh, wait, hang on. I wrote down this thing. I think you'll like this. You'll like this, especially Troy.
Go ahead.
You're an Astros person.
Okay.
So, in a dog's brain, if you had your dog sitting there with you during the 2019 Astros World Series thing, which they didn't win, right?
They lost in 19, yes.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. So if your dog was sitting there and you gave your dog a snack every time Joe Buck said Juan Soto, who was the guy that he liked, wasn't he young or something?
He was young, yes.
Not big on my baseball stuff.
20 years old or something.
You can see I did my research there.
You are researched.
So if you gave your dog a snack every time Joe Buck said Juan Soto through games 1 through 3, games 4 through 7, your floor would be covered in dog slobber because your dog would anticipate a treat every time Joe Buck said Juan Soto. So those two events became linked. Okay. So our brains, as humans, do the same thing with patterns. If, when you had the first caveman around 50,000 years ago, if he heard a tiger growl or some sort of thing happen like that, he'd go hide in his cave. If it was raining real hard, he would go hide in his cave. If, some other fellow was coming around trying to take his meat, he'd go hide in his cave and grab a bunch of rocks to throw at that guy. So, you link things. Your brain detects patterns. Well, the problem isn't that your brain does that, it's that we take it to extremes now. Because at some point, our little caveman guy, back in the day, saw a comet go through the sky, and he linked that with an earthquake that happened right afterward. So every time he saw a shooting star or whatever, he'd go run in his cave, and that's inconvenient, but it's not a big deal. Running in a cave was a very safe practice for a caveman. Because if you ran in it and nothing happened, no big deal. But if a tiger was about to eat your leg off, that's kind of a big deal, especially if there's no medicine.
Not a lot of medicine back then.
You're doing really well. Thank you.
I'm listening as much as I can.
By the way, I convinced Troy to participate in this, and It's not his fault if it's completely boring.
I'm just following your pattern, see where we're going.
So, if anything uncertain happened, if there was a big noise or whatever, the guy in the past, the guy 50,000 years ago, would go run and hide in his cave. That was his answer to uncertainty. Well, now, we still have uncertainty. And when crazy things happen, like the coronavirus, or a lot of riots or anything else that happen, it puts people into a level of uncertainty. So they can't go hide in a cave, so what do you think they do? They go hide in their belief system.
Oh, I got you.
So if you're the sort of person that thinks that the government is out to get you and, is really just trying to control you and make your life harder or make you do whatever they want to do, then when you hear about the coronavirus and that you have to wear a mask and you have to social distance, your immediate thought is to hide in your belief system and go, well, obviously this is just a way for them to keep us down or to control us and make us do the things they want to do for whatever purpose. Because we go to extremes in times of uncertainty. Now, if you're the sort of person who thinks that lizard people rule the world, then you think the coronavirus, the protests, or anything else are some sort of ploy. In fact, the coronavirus coupled with the protests, coupled with the riots, are a ploy so that the lizard people can rise up out of their little holes and form some sort of thing where Jim Morrison is resurrected and controls the world. Jim Morrison, by the way, was
Lizard King.
Thank you. You're a very educated guy, and that's why I have you here. He was the Doors singer, but he called himself the Lizard King. So, you'll couple all these things together, and then you'll come up with your thing that your belief system does. Now, obviously, most of you people don't think that lizard people or whatever else has made us the way we are. Most people are sort of in the middle in some kind of gray area. But the reason I say all that is because our brains over the last 50,000 years or 100,000 years haven't really changed that much. But everything else has. Every single threat we have to our beliefs does not necessarily mean that we need to go hide in a cave. With that, society is so connected now that we can see what each other thinks immediately. We can read each other's thoughts immediately if we so choose to put them out there. And we can talk to each other immediately. So, not only do you have your brain that has a little bit of a flawed mechanism in it to see patterns and things that sometimes aren't patterns, but you also carry around two things with you. You got a can of gasoline and a bottle of water. So, anytime there's a situation that has an ignition point that could turn into a huge thing, you can pour gas on it and make it enormous, or you can pour water on it and make it smaller. In my opinion, this is my opinion, currently everyone is carrying around a can of gasoline and pouring it on almost everything. Like I said, this is not a political statement because I think if you're listening to me, you probably don't know my politics, and I'm not going to talk about them on some kind of podcast. But just imagine anything you hear on social media or wherever as, do you want to pour gasoline on it or do you want to pour water on it? I think everyone would agree that we're using the gasoline a lot and we're not really using water very much. So, with that, go to my second page.
There's 2 pages?
Oh, there's 2 pages of notes.
Goodness.
I mean, come on now. So how do you do something better? Like how would we, as a society, do better and actually progress? Because I do like progression. I think that, there are a lot of things that happen that are good that we would need to advance on, that we need to keep going with. Well, what's the best way for us to not make it a screaming match between 2 opposing people?
Delete Facebook and Twitter and the end of it. End it all.
Man, that would be great.
End social media.
You could do that. I think that
that is the number. That's the answer.
Ending
I will not
social
take
media.
arguments.
You could do fine. Okay. Now you could do that, but let me give you another little thing that I thought of. So, what if we just sucked the emotion out of a situation? Like, what if you heard some information that didn't necessarily jive with your belief system or whatever you already thought, and you just sucked the emotion right out of it? Like, wouldn't your decision be a little bit better then?
Well, obviously, yes.
I mean, I'll ask you. So, in your whole life, think about big decisions. Have you ever made a big decision when you were completely emotional that you thought was a good decision? Now that you now think it's a good decision?
No. I tell you what I have learned is that I have been emotional while trying to make a decision and then end up making the decision at a later time when I was less emotional.
Yeah.
And then the decision was much more well thought out. Or,
Right.
So I have noticed that in all of my patterns. All of my thinking.
So I think that we could agree, and I really think if we, most people would agree, that if you can really get non-emotional about making a decision before you make it, that you'll make a much better decision. Even if it's a decision that's important, even if it's a decision that is revolutionary or, a big deal, like against the grain or against the status quo. I meant, to extrapolate it even further, if you're thinking of a revolution against a country and you have a country that's oppressive, well, the status quo has been going for a while, and everybody, while not happy, might not be really happy with the current state of things. But to decide to do a coup and take over a government, pretty big decision.
Yeah.
If you made that at the height of emotion, you might want to go blow up Parliament and blow up your leader or do whatever. But if you just took a few moments to think, you'd be like, okay, what is the best way we can actually do this for it to fit? Because a million times over and over again in history, people have tried to take over governments, do everything else in a moment, knee-jerk, emotional decision, and it never works out. Not just because the thing they want to replace it with is worse, but because you're doing it out of emotion. So as a personal thing to all your lives, if you're listening to me, if you'll take the emotion out of stuff, you'll make a much better decision no matter what you're trying to do. And I think you'll kind of, along the way, decide that maybe what you wanted to do wasn't the best. All right, my second thing is if we can develop a little bit of empathy toward each other and understand that we're all a little bit different. Like Penny, my dog, who is half Chihuahua, half Rottweiler, raised on the streets eating crispy worms, lived a different experience growing up than Nellie, the fat-ass black lab, who's never gone a day without eating and eats all the figs off a fig tree, and you could shoot a gun next to her ear, and she'd be like, okay, well, where's dinner? I mean, no big deal. Understand that people have lived different experiences. If you grew up in a house that always had food and you went to a private school and then you went to college where it was paid for, that's not bad. You shouldn't feel guilty about it. You shouldn't. There's no reason to feel bad about anything that was your upbringing. You just feel grateful and happy that you have your life. But in the same way, understand that not everybody lived that experience. Some people had to struggle growing up. Some people, had to go through a lot of really hard things that you could have never imagined. And then I'll say, thirdly, that the person who grew up with a lot of adversity, you need to understand not everybody grew up in that way either. We all, if we could just put ourselves in other people's place for just a minute while we're backing off from emotion, while we're calming down and go, okay, why is this person saying this? What's their life experience? You'll make a better decision. So I think, use a little bit more water, less gasoline, stop and think for a few minutes, and then put yourself in somebody else's shoes. If you can do all that and you still want to do whatever you're about to do, on your social media post, on your, discussion with someone else, then go ahead and do it. That's great. It jives with your values. Because a lot of the times, if you do the thing where you just say what comes off the top of your head, it really doesn't coincide with your values, and I think you don't feel great about it later. Well, hang on, let me make sure I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Sorry.
And I think what you're saying is we don't think before we post, before we act. We're all at the height of emotion with everything we do. We're waiting for conflict to happen. We're not waiting for resolution. We're waiting for some kind of conflict. That when you come up to talk to somebody, when someone's coming up to talk to you, it's almost like you're waiting for an argument to start already.
Sure.
That's how we are. We're not ready for, hey, how's it going, or handshake or high five. It's all like, what? What? Why? What do you want?
We're wondering if something bad's about to happen.
And it's just, I don't know. It's frustrating because we see the certain level of people acting certain ways. We see on the news all of either the really bad stuff or the really negative stuff about the bad, this stuff we call bad or whatever's going on. Then you see the negative reaction to it. So we never see the middle ground. We never see the middle ground of the everyday person that's just like, please stop all this stuff. Let's get back to normal. We don't see that. That's how 90% of the world is. But all we see are the protesting or the people bitching about the protesting. That's what we ever see. We never see the people that are like, can I just go to work and go get some food and go home? And you know, we never see that. And that's what people want. And that's why I think social media and even the news media is so polarizing, because it shows this is how it is. This is how you need to be, because look, everybody here is doing it. You need to be like that too. And it's not, hey, just leave me alone.
You can live without having to choose one side of things and just be happy about your life.
Yeah.
You can be okay with that. And you know what, though? If you sit down and you analyze your values and your thoughts and you consider a few things, just 10 minutes. I'm just saying, give it 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And you still want to do the thing. You still want to make your social media post. You still want to go into a conflict with somebody, then go do it, because obviously it's worth it. And that's fine. No big deal. There have been times when, in my life, I had to confront somebody. There's been times when I had to say something really unfortunate to somebody. I've had to get in, arguments with people. But I'm telling you, I would have been much better served to think about those things before I did them, because not only would I have not done some of those things, but when I went in to do the thing I was going to do, whether it be an argument or anything else, I would have been much better prepared.
Yeah.
I would have been much calmer, and it would have worked out on my end a lot better.
Yeah. And it's also a thing is you can have viewpoints on both sides. We're being so polarized where you can only think this way or you can only think this way. And if you think this way, you're a terrible person. You have to think this way. Why can't people have most people do. They have views on both sides.
Sure.
That's how most people are, but you don't get that when you look at any type of anything that's persuasive, and the news media is persuasive, and we don't get both sides. We don't get a viewpoint. You get
to choose which side you want, and it's the furthest on each side.
Yes, and there's no midpoint. If you're in the midpoint, you're basically complicit in everything that's wrong if you're in the midpoint.
Well, the good thing is that you get to decide what things mean for you, and you get to decide what people mean to you. So if you'll take me for an example, I would guarantee everybody that's listening to this thing, unless somehow somebody snuck in, but usually people that listen to this, I think, have met me. I would ask you to think about every interaction I've ever had with you right now. Just think about every time we've ever interacted. Think about, have I treated you unkindly? Have I been unfair to you? And if you think I've been unfair to you or unkind to you, what made you think that? What was it? And I think you'll see that I've really, especially with the Flag Football League, now you can talk to all the 17 or 14 or whatever ex-wives I've had, that's different. But, anyone who's played the Flag Football League, I've treated everyone as best I could the same. And I really just wanted the league to go well my entire time I've been involved with it. But if you do that with everyone you ever meet and think, okay, what's my previous interaction with this person? What was it like? What was the one before that? You'll see that most people aren't out to get you.
Yeah.
People have bad days. They have bad fights with their spouses. They have days where they don't want to talk to anybody. They have days like I do where the damn dog bites me in the morning because when she was a puppy, she got kicked. And I didn't do anything. But, at night I touched her and she bit me, and that's my PTSD. Sorry. It's been a lot about my dogs. But, people have stories. They have life experiences. So, before you're going to go judge someone and think that they're something they're not, why not go up to that person and just talk to them? Be like, hey, I know you think this. What's your reason behind it? What do you think? And ask a question instead of making an assumption. And you can take that however you'd like, because that's your right. But, people have different experiences.
Yeah. I'll actually get a little bit insight into how I feel about, I'll just talk about the statues thing. At first, I thought, why are we tearing down statues? They're just statues. What is it? What is it doing? Who is it hurting? Who's it harming? And then I changed my thinking into, well, why don't we just tear them all down so we can end all the silliness and get back to normal? They're just objects. They're just statues. What purpose do they serve, to be there or not to be there? It's just a statue. So
Sure.
I have a viewpoint on both sides. They're just statues. Why are we tearing them down? Or they're just statues. Just tear them down. I can understand both sides. I just want to get back to normal life, without worrying about, oh, here comes a flare-up of corona again because we're all out doing crazy stuff again. I just want to get back to normal living where nobody's complaining about things like that. And it's frustrating because you can have a viewpoint on both sides, but certain people you can't have a viewpoint depending on who you're talking to. So it's kind of frustrating.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and with the monuments thing, I'm not going to offer a political opinion or any kind of really opinion, but I think that if you're the sort of person who loves your country, you shouldn't be labeled a racist.
Yes.
I think
agree
if you're
with
the sort of person who wants to go to protests, you shouldn't be labeled a nuisance or
an anarchist
or whiny.
Yeah.
I think if you're the sort of person who, I don't know, gets offended by a statue of a Confederate soldier, you certainly shouldn't be labeled a person who's overly sensitive.
Yeah.
Because I have not lived that experience, and I am of no authority to speak on that. If someone is offended by something, I don't think that most people have the license to say whether they are or they aren't.
Yeah.
If something bothers you, it's okay that it bothers you.
Exactly.
That's fine. It's not we shouldn't go and label people like little whiny people or overly sensitive because they're troubled by something. Maybe a better solution would be to ask that person, okay, you're bothered by this, whatever. And I'm sure I've done stuff that's bothered people. It would be better for me to say, what bothers you? What about what I just did bothers you? Let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
And you know what? If tearing down a statue or whatever makes us a more together country, and it makes us more inclusive, and it doesn't have this giant monument to what a lot of people would perceive as a past that's kind of awful, tear it down. I don't care.
Yeah. I can understand how a Confederate statue is offensive.
Sure. Totally get it.
It was basically, hey, if they would have won, then people would probably may still be slaves. Who knows? So yes, that's offensive. I understand that.
Sure.
So I don't understand why people are upset when they are torn down.
I don't really either, but I'm trying not to say one thing or the other.
No, I know, but I'm just going to at least say what I feel. Because I like with the Confederate flag, I think that's, why is it still a symbol? Why is it still something that people are holding on to? It was something that was there for like 4 years. You were against the United States. You were basically a hateful. You didn't meet. You were just living your life like you're supposed to because you had slaves forever. That was what your life was. Your life was getting changed. You didn't want to change. You lost. People still hold on to that flag, and it's just a symbol of basically racial difference and Southern pride. But it's not.
Sure.
It's basically, you don't see people flying Nazi flags anymore. They lost.
Right.
And so why is the Confederate flag such a thing we hold on to when it's a terrible symbol?
Sure. And you'll have people that'll tell you, well, the Nazi flag was just a perversion of something that meant peace and unity. I'm like, well, that's not what it means to people in the modern times. I mean, you could do whatever you wanted with a pentagram, but I don't think that anybody's going to be cool with you having a pentagram on your flag as a state.
Yeah.
You could look at whatever history you wanted, but look, we all live and deal with real world consequences and the way things are interpreted in the modern times. Certain things, like to me, the Confederate flag, it's just, it's not a symbol that I think has any good to do in the world.
Yeah.
I am from the South. I'm from Texas.
Yeah.
I have no affinity to the Confederate flag at all.
I've never.
To me,
yeah.
it was the flag that represented the piece of the country that wanted to secede and be a completely different country. And I'm like, well, I'm an American. I am part of the United States of America.
Exactly. I'm a Texan and I'm an American. I was not part of the Confederacy.
Sure, and I'm against basically most of the things they ever stood for, other than some states' rights stuff, which was... It's just that I kind of like that we have states' rights, but then again, I don't really think that was their main thing.
Yeah.
But I'm against 99% of anything the Confederacy liked. So what is it about them that I'm going to support? Like, why have that? To me, it makes you a very extreme person. And thunder just happened behind me. I'm very scared now.
It did. His hair stood up on his nipples.
Yeah, it did. And one of my dogs just pissed her pants. Anyway, but I think this was a good discussion. I liked it. Thank you for listening to me.
No problem. This is, this is something that could get really, it could go one way really quick, and I think you held it together, and we did.
Thanks.
And, yeah.
Well, I'll give you one more little piece of advice that's going to take like less than 1 minute. So in the Navy SEALs, they have this combat breathing thing that I've been talking about before, and whenever they're about to be in a big thing they think it's going to be a shootout or some intense situation, what they're trained to do is take in a breath for 4 seconds, hold it, and then let their breath out for 4 seconds, and then hold that, then take in a breath for 4 seconds, hold it again, and repeat that 3 times. Because if you can control your breath successfully and make yourself focus on your breath, you will calm down, your stress level goes down, your heart rate goes down, and everything else goes down. So all that I want to ask anybody that listens to this thing is that before you make your next decision on a social media post, on a, big decision in your life that could get kind of emotional, even a purchase of a home or something, do your combat breathing. Do your Navy SEAL breathing for a little bit. Take 5 minutes. Just think about what you're about to do, and then do it. If you decide in that 5 minutes it's a bad deal, don't do it.
Don't do it.
So there you go. All right. Thank you for listening.
That was good. I'm glad. It's something that we need to talk about because we deal with all situations in life, with our jobs, with our even the football league. Everybody has different. You come from different backgrounds. You hang out with people. You deal with them a few times a month or a week or every day, and everybody's different, and everybody should be treated like they're individuals, not because you don't lump everybody the same because that's what you are. No, I think everybody should be treated the way that they act, how they are, and everybody can learn, everybody can be educated, everybody can change. You just got to give people a chance. People need a chance.
Yep, and like every romantic comedy I've ever seen has said, everything led up to this moment. That's true for absolutely every interaction you ever have in your whole life.
And wherever you go, there you are.
Yep. All right, well, have a good day.
Good luck.